Dean Muller, honored graduates, faculty, parents, friends, and distinguished guests, I really want to thank you for having me here today to share what is really a beautiful, beautiful occasion with all of you. From a personal standpoint, this is truly an incredible thrill for me because 49 years ago, I sat where you're sitting as a graduating student from Boston University. And little did I ever dream that I would have the honor and privilege of ever talking to a graduating class on commencement day. And more recently, not too many years ago, I attended my daughter's commencement right here at Boston University and attended my son-in-law's graduation from this very school that honors each of you today. Dean Muller, I also want to thank you very much for that very flattering introduction. It kind of reminds me about a speaker who was once introduced to his audience as the most gifted businessman in the country, as evidenced by the fact that he made millions and millions of dollars in Texas oil wells. When this businessman rose to speak, he was a bit embarrassed. He said, well, the introduction was essentially correct, but he felt compelled to point out it wasn't oil. It was coal. And it wasn't exactly Texas, it was Pennsylvania. And just to keep the record straight, it wasn't millions and millions of dollars, a few $100,000. And it wasn't him, it was his brother. And he didn't make the money, he lost it. So matters of fact aside, the speaker concluded, I'm still grateful for the kind words, for the opportunity to talk to you today. So Dean Muller, after that much too generous introduction, I do think I know how that speaker must have felt. Now, before I talk to you, the graduating students, let me say something first to the parents out there. Nadia Boulanger, a French composer, musician, and teacher, she recently passed away, said something that I think is very apropos as we celebrate your children's graduation. What she said, and I quote, "Loving a child doesn't mean giving in to all his or her whims. To love him is to bring out the best in him, to teach him or her to love what is difficult." And as parents of the graduates today, graduates from one of the most challenging universities in the country, and for a hospitality program that is as challenging as any there is, each of you, parents of graduates, have taught your children to love what is difficult. You've brought out the very best in them. How do I know that? I know it is because it is the only way that your child could successfully complete an education at this fine institution. So while congratulations are certainly in order for every student sitting here today, and I will shortly get to that, I first want to congratulate each of the parents sitting in this room for bringing out the best of your children and for teaching them to love what is difficult. This will stand them. Trust me, this will stand them in very good stead as they begin the next phase of their lives in the business community. And let me assure you that your child is entering an industry at exactly the right time. It's growing at a record pace. It's exciting, and it will, from this day on, give your child all the opportunity he or she could ever possibly want. Now, I might also add that as a parent who has written tuition checks for 3 children, that congratulations are in order for what I am sure will be significantly improved cash flow that each of you will enjoy now that your children get off your payroll and onto someone else's. To the graduating students, let me say, as you would expect me to say, congratulations. More importantly, welcome to the hospitality industry. You have dedicated your college careers to preparing yourselves to enter this industry, which besides my wife, my children, and grandchildren, is the absolute love of my life. Whatever I've been able to achieve in life has been through the opportunities that this industry has afforded me. I know of no other industry on the planet where any individual, through hard work, commitment, and dedication, can move along faster, have greater responsibility, greater compensation, and a more unlimited future than ours. For there are truly far more opportunities than people to fill those opportunities. And more than any industry I know of, this is one that is truly blind to race, religion, ethnic background, and gender. It's too much to do. We can't afford it. It only sees results. And each of you sitting in this room today have been given a wonderful, wonderful set of skills to produce outstanding results. In my 40-year hospitality career, I have watched many successful people, and what I've observed and learned has meant a great deal to me in whatever progress I have made in my business life and my career. So what I'd like to do in the few minutes that are allotted to me today is share with you that which underpins my personal business philosophy, and I hope that some of it indeed might be helpful as you begin your careers. Most of you, a lot quicker than you think, are going to be given significant responsibility for building or managing an organization. And over time, it is likely that you, as you progress in our industry, will be responsible for managing a large number of people. With this in mind, let me talk a little bit about how I see organization development and management. There's an old saying that a person doesn't build a business. A person builds an organization, and an organization builds a business. And let me share with you some thoughts I have on building an organization and how you might think about going about it as you embark upon your careers. First of all, seek out the very best people you can, because they will always make you look good. Once you've found them, don't be afraid to compensate them as best as you possibly can. Remember, with people like anything else, you get what you pay for. Should you embark on an entrepreneurial life, as I'm sure some of you will, where you run and own your own business, the results you get when you share your profits and your equity with the very best people you have. There is nothing like ownership to keep and motivate great people. While you are managing a group of people, treat all of them with the utmost respect, just as you'd want to be treated. The best way I know to do this is to share all of your business goals and strategies with them. Make them a part of it. This makes them feel part of the business. It makes them feel respected, and most importantly, creates a family atmosphere, which is a wonderful thing, no matter how large a business is. A sense of belonging, a sense of opportunity to get recognition for their accomplishments. Moreover, they can probably be very helpful to you in shaping your goals and strategies and making them even more effective. What I also believe is very important when building and managing a great organization is being very certain that your credibility, your own credibility, is always unquestionable. People have to believe in you. You must have the highest possible level of credibility with all of your people in order to make that a certainty. And with unassailable credibility, you're then in a position to set the highest possible standards for the operation you're running and for the work the people that perform, because people will respond. Moreover, set that achievement bar as high as you possibly can, and you will be very surprised how many people will jump over that bar with you. But setting the bar high and having people jump over it with you, once again, starts with everyone believing in you and believing your credibility. When you are credible and set that bar high, you will enthusiastically instill in everyone you work with a passion to achieve excellence in every possible endeavor, and it will spread throughout the organization, regardless of the level. Also, ladies and gentlemen, give every individual in your organization the responsibility and the authority to achieve their goals. Too often in this industry and others, we give people responsibility, but we don't give them authority. And you've probably experienced some of this and are likely to experience some of this in the jobs. But remember, when you get into a position of authority, either in a corporation or whether you own your own business, don't just give the responsibility, give the authority. It is something you're going to want when you start with your first job in a week or two or a month or whatever. So it stands to reason that people who will work for you will want the same thing, and more often than not, far more often than not, they won't let you down. Very importantly, though, periodically check and follow through that your standards, which I am sure are very high, and your philosophies are being adhered to by everybody with whom you work. Now, lastly, when it comes to your organization work, you need to work very hard to make your people successful. Because when your people are successful, people say good things about you. You are really paid back in life for what people want to do for you. You can be the biggest boss in the world, but if nobody wants to work with you or for you, it won't get done. I firmly believe that these principles of organization building are how you will build the most successful organization you possibly can and lay the foundation for a very successful business career in our industry. And don't think what I've just said applies then just years from now, when you are vice presidents of this or president of that or chairman of the board. It applies the very first day you start your new job. But at the end of the day, after you have built and managed a great organization, whether you are in the restaurant business, the hotel business, the catering business, whatever end of the hospitality industry you go into, or for that matter, any other business, you still have to remember one thing. Ultimately, the real business you are in is the business of satisfying customers, guests, whoever that customer or guest might be. Successful organizations that I've been at share certain principles that provide for the highest level of customer satisfaction. And before I leave this podium, I would like to take a minute to share them with you. First and foremost, and you've always heard this before, the customer's the boss, and the most important factor in any business. So my view of this is the organization chart of any company should start with the customer at the top, because that's who we all work for. That's who provides us with our ability to make a living. When there is a dispute with a customer, try to convince them of your point, but don't argue, because you can win an argument with a customer, but chances are if you do, you've lost that customer. Secondly, treat your employees, suppliers, and anybody else with whom you do business as you would treat your customers. Because remember, the only thing the customer must do is pay for the product. The employee, the supplier, or whomever will reflect your attitude towards your customers, and most of the time it will be their job, one way or the other, to provide your customers with excellence beyond expectation. And when that happens, you are going to have a very good shot at satisfying those customers and having them as repeat customers. I think it should go without saying to see that your customers are always provided with the finest quality and service and cleanliness and value. Because the best way to invite competition is to have a successful business with a substandard operation, because a substandard operations results ultimately in dissatisfied customers looking for alternatives. It creates a vacuum, and nature always abhors vacuums. I've often heard it said that what we need in business, when business is bad, is more advertising. You know, and sometimes that's true. But you should also remember that advertising and public relations will not alone create a successful business. If you don't mind the analogy, putting a spotlight on a pile of manure can only make it smell worse. So lastly, let's talk about adversity, because at some point in your career, just like everybody I've ever known, including myself, you're going to encounter adversity. But it's a wonderful, wonderful teacher. Never forget that. Maybe the best teacher there is. Everyone I know that has been successful has encountered adversity, and the ones that have rebounded from it, the ones that have prospered, have learned from it, they've slapped it down, they've turned it around, and continued on. Show me a person that has never made a mistake, and I will show you someone that never did anything. Now, I certainly don't expect you to remember everything that I've articulated this morning. I can assure you that each and every one of you, that if each and every one of you achieves success, that the success that you hope and dream for, you're going to latch on to most of them. Because if you're going to be leaders in our industry, you must possess credibility, imagination, enthusiasm, vision, foresight, a sense of timing, a passion for excellence, and be willing to share. You must also possess empathy, devotion, common sense, dedication, persistence, and the ability to communicate and teach and pass on to others. And you must always remember that the customer is your boss. For the customer has the discretion of where to spend their money among the multitude of options that they have. This is exactly what we've talked about in the last few minutes. There are, however, two thoughts that I believe best sum up what I said today. And I think if you make them your guiding principle, just as it has always been mine, you will all be fine. And these two thoughts are very, very simple. You, graduating seniors from the class of 2011, you can get whatever you want in life, and I mean whatever you want in life, if you commit yourselves to help other people get what they want in life. And before I share my second thought, I'd like each of you graduates to stand up and look under your chairs. Yes, this dollar bill triggers my second thought. And I hope from now on you'll look at it often and think of this thought. If you want to make a buck, get off your ass. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.